Do you know how long the heavy rail line is between Ralston and Rangiora? It's 54 kilometres. Do you know how long the passenger line will take? It will take 60 minutes with 13 stations. Ralston, Whedons, Templeton, Hornby, Middleton, Addington, Riccarton, lots of tins. Papanui, Belfast, Cheneys, Kaipoi, Southbrook, and Rangiora. You can either have one line or you can have two emanating from the city. They both have their pros and cons. And do you know how I know this and say it with such certainty? Because we've already done a business case on it. GCP produced the Greater Christchurch Mass Rapid Transit Interim Report in June 21, and in there it outlines quite surely a passenger rail option. The capital cost estimate is between $1.5 to $2 billion. It's a lot, but it's half the MRT estimates, it's more than double the length, and it wouldn't remove traffic from two of the busiest roads in the city. And furthermore, let's remove two major assumptions from this business case. Number one, let's remove the necessity to build a direct connection to the city centre via an open trench and develop a Riccarton Central Station just west of Hagley Park. And number two, let's remove the need to double track and electrify, as mixed traffic operations are common practice in rail systems. Most of England operates on mixed traffic operations. These two luxuries can come later. Once we do this, the capital costs are brought down to anywhere between $200 and $600 million, depending on the age of the diesel trains and the level of the station development. Te Huia, the Hamilton-Auckland line that is meeting its NZTA objectives, cost $70 million and $25 million for a 5-year trial. The backbone of our market economy is small business and sole traders who survive on finding innovative solutions on a shoestring budget. But why does the state, in the paradigm we live in, always push these huge infrastructure projects with massive blowouts and unattainable dreams? I do not agree with the outlined approach to look at South Island Rail, and I do not believe it was the intention of this council to do so. When the arterial motorways are clogged up during rush hour, is it because of the traffic going to Dunedin or Nelson? No. And any train that comes from Otago or Marlborough is going to come through our peri-urban districts regardless. When you go from being stationary to jogging, do you begin by jogging a marathon, or do you begin by running around the block? The Golden Mile in Poneke is gone. The Auckland Super projects too, because they can't afford it and the government won't fund them. The Ralston-Rangiora line is a foot in the door, and who knows what exists on the other side once we give our people and our urban landscape this option. We have this situation where the people want this, RTC want this, the council put money on budget to look at this, and yet we're always told it's in the too hard basket. Let's defer it. We don't have the expertise. So here's the pragmatic solution I'm putting forward today. Let's put it into year 3 so that it's still in this council's long-term plan, and that some of us who are hoping to be re-elected next year can seek the mandate from our communities to develop this business case outlining the proposal I've painted. And if we're given the honour to return to this building, we can progress this. The next council can pick this up, because I quote officers, there are no specific conditions on this expenditure as such. I ask you, next time you're in Ralston and Rangiora, go and look at the railway station, because the rest of these satellites are developing rapidly. Shiny new libraries, massive fast-tracked housing developments, and the stations stand there from a bygone era, decrepit and unloved. Passenger rail will happen one day. It's an inevitability. It can start with this council, the next one, or the one after that, but it will happen. I'll finish with a quote from Anna Fonda, the Australian author. I like trains, I like their rhythm, and I like the freedom of being suspended between two places, all anxieties and purpose taken care of. For this moment, I know where I'm going.
Kia ora, Joe. So it wasn't really, and what great speech. It wasn't really a no, but you're saying year 3 is an option that you would be satisfied with. So that's good feedback. Who wants to go next? Ian, we'll go that way.
It was a fantastic presentation. Thank you, Joe. I disagree with everything you said, and that is that if our new satellite towns or even Christchurch was designed around railway, as they are in those countries where railways are still operating reasonably efficiently in delivering passenger services, that would be one thing. But they're not. They're totally, even Ralston itself, you've got to cross the main road to get to the railway station. and so how impractical is that? When you come to Christchurch, you get dumped off in a suburb out in the south somewhere, which is miles from any destination.
They are building an overbridge over.
I know. I'm against any investment in rail for passenger transport. I think it's an archaic form of transport, and New Zealand isn't designed for it. And we're better to invest in the network we have, which is roading, rather than having a dual system.
Cool. We'll go to you, Peter.
Oh, look, this is not going to lie down. It hasn't for a long, long time. And it's not going to lie down. I don't think that you can just dismiss it out of hand. I tend to agree that whether it's year 3 or year 4, it will surface again. And if that money is there, then we should utilise it. But I'd like to get to the point sometime where we actually can put a line under this, that says either a yes line or a no line, but it's gone on and on. I think there's something like 10 or 15 studies been done on rail in the last 20, 25 years. So it's not going to go away. So, yeah. But well said, Joe. Actually.
Yep.
What I heard just before from Councillor Davies was a vision for the future. And when you look at his age, that is what that's about. And only thing we can do, our old grey-haired, no hair, whatever, is to actually support, a kind, or build a legacy that we can actually leave, and the likes of Joe and the other younger members can actually continue with. I actually agree with what Joe was saying, actually, because what he's bringing is a futuristic look, which shouldn't be futuristic, actually, because most of us around here have lived in some of the major capitals of the world, and a lot of them revolve around rail and buses as well. And then the comment about our towns and cities weren't built actually around or as rail as their focal point. Well, I can remember even living in Tuihiwi, we went to Kaipo in the rail car, used to actually come through, and we used to take that to Littleton or to Christchurch. I can remember coming from school from up in Auckland on the Limited down to Wellington. And that train was actually full all the time. And then I can also relate to what, that, because the Rangiora railway station actually was quite busy. I can remember as a kid, it was busy. People actually went to Christchurch on the train or the rail car. So all I'm saying is that here you've got someone that at least has presented something that is actually could be a really good, I think it's a good legacy, because we've been talking about this for quite a long, long time. When we went over to the infrastructure conference in Brisbane, the way that they do it over there, sure, they've got more people and they've got a mining economy and all of that, but it's still doable actually here. because there's a lot of other innovative things that we can be doing. The satellites are actually going to be the lifeline of this city. I truly believe that. Doesn't matter, where, west, north, south. So, yeah, I actually took all that, Joe, and good on you for bringing it up. We just got to kind of get a yes or a no. I don't think we should go for a maybe. It's either yes or no, and just get. That's the way we should be thinking moving forward. Let's build the legacy, and then you actually take up the RACO, and you continue on with it. So what I'm trying to say is, yes.
Kia ora, Nick. Claire?
Yeah, look, I support the deferral to year 4 because I do agree with Peter that this is not going to go away. It's going to have to be done at some time. I just think that even if we do something, the reality is how the hell's it going to be funded? I'm a train romantic, but like not here, grew up and even I can remember even from university going back from Palmerston North to Waipakarau actually was where the train stopped and hopping on there. So yeah, I think for me it's around keep the vision there. I have no problem with that. But the population of Greater Christchurch at the moment is what? Or Canterbury? We haven't got very many people when we compare it to our cities, and that's what we are prone to do. We go to big cities around the world, which are basically the population of New Zealand Inc. And we sit here and we think that we've got a big city in Christchurch when we haven't really. Here, Joe, completely, but I think that I'm very comfortable with the deferral to year 4. And I think it will have to be done. I agree with Peter. At some stage it's got to be done.
Nick?
Thank you, Joe, for your speech. It was excellent and great to see that coming from you when you're the course service lead of public transport. Yeah, we do definitely have to have a yes or a no, and whether we defer this to year 3 or 4, I mean, that's probably open for discussion. And I mean, I guess the $1 million question or the $1 billion question: have we got the population base to support the annual cost of a rail network? And I mean, I've done a lot of travelling around the world, and in a lot of these cities that do have really effective rail do have a huge population base to support it. And I guess that's probably the sad reality, but I think we do need to look at that.
Thanks, Nick. John?
I'm still to be convinced that rail is the solution, but my mind is open, so happy to defer to year 3 and genuinely look at it, and I would like a yes/no so that I won't constantly keep coming back to it.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
Sounds like there's the legacy of the Ore councillors after Tāne Apanui. He championed rail here on council in the last term, and I see that Councillor Davies is carrying on that legacy from the northeast. I'd say move it to year 3, and then leave it there for the next council to champion. Kia ora.
Vicky?
Yeah, no, good speech and well presented vision, and I could absolutely support this to year 3. Not least as if we're pushing back MRT to year 4, just in terms of workload and spreading and showing a clear sort of trajectory. I actually do also think that we do need to line up with our other regional councils and look at a new South Island as a whole. And I think where the cost benefit stacks up or could stack up is really where you start looking. We need to be looking at passenger rail for across regions in conjunction with freight rail. It all travels on exactly the same infrastructure, so that's where the potential is. We might have a smaller populations, but we also do have a lot of freight movement potential to shift onto rail. And if we want to achieve our decarbonisation sort of commitments that we've made internationally, rail has to be a part of the solution. There's absolutely no other way of achieving that decarbonisation. So totally support actually an additional piece of work, which would be the piece around looking at it as a collective across South Island, but bringing forward the local rail part. And a note where Councillor Davies has identified putting, a stop in near Hagley, of course that ties in with the trajectory of the mass rapid transit. It's so easy to hop off. I've done that in cities easily. You hop off one rail system and hop into another, dead easy, no drama. So I think that's where we need to be looking.
No, I don't agree that we should be deferring this investment. There's a clear message from the Canterbury Regional Transport Committee requesting that we investigate this. Same with the South Island Regional Transport Chairs are also keen to undertake the freight passenger linkage as well. And I think there's never a better time for us to do some of these strategic studies. And it's important that we are ready to go with this. Since 2021, as Joe had talked about that previous studies, and we know there have been previous studies on passenger rail, and they have not come out very well with that. But the thing that's happened, the big thing that's happened, is we've undertaken a massive public consultation process under the spatial planning process. And we know as part of that we were planning for a city of, or a Greater Christchurch population to reach 700,000, progressing to 1 million people. And it's where are we putting those people? We already know massive growth in Rolleston. There's also similar growth. But the opportunity to connect the Greater Christchurch further afield with perhaps rail to Amberley, down to Ashburton, certainly there's efficiencies in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and all those sorts of things. So I think it's really important that we do look at that. It's not going to go away, and it's not going to be a dead duck in the future either. We just got to be smarter about it. It works, I think, the line from Palmerston North to Wellington it seems to be going pretty well. A diesel kind of electric electric solar sort of thing. And I too, like Nook, used to travel on train to school from Mosgiel to Dunedin every day. Rail car, trains before that as well. Carries a lot of people efficiently, morning and at night especially. And I really would be keen to see where we are, where have we progressed in terms of our attitude to rail, in these last few years. I think it's really important. But the other thing about it too is that will give us a bit of an indication of the missing linkages between the current MRT from Hornby to Belfast. We're always looking at how do we get people from Belfast to Rangiora and Kaiapoi? How do we get people from Hornby to Rolleston and further south? So the passenger rail to me seems like a fairly efficient way of joining that up. Anyway, it's just a possibility, and I think as a strategic thing we should be looking at it.
So Grant, you're saying no to deferring it to year 4 and keep it in year 2?
Yes, yep. I think no to year 4 and no to year 3. I think we get on with it now in year 2. It's not a lot of money, and it effectively answers some questions for our regional TAs and also the South Island issue as well.
Thank you. Greg?
I guess we can all reminisce about our days, 4 days on the Indian Pacific first class, very romantic as a young man with my then wife. Fantastic. Can't help but romanticise it. A bit different when I used to travel between Petone Technical College and Trentham as a commuter. That was a bit more rugged. Look, I put a video up last week of a freight train going over Ensours Road. It took over a minute for the train to get past because of the number of wagons on it. My view on heavy rail is we should be supporting whatever we can do to get freight onto rail. I know there's a lot of people who talk about trucks and whatever. I think that the beauty about having freight on our heavy rail, that would help support having passenger rail on there as well. There is a lot of merit. I really like the idea, Joe, what you're saying about a new council next year having the ability to be able to make a decision going through. So I kind of like what Grant's saying, but I can live with what Joe's saying. I don't think we put it into the 4th year. And then finally, I wanted to say, no, I won't say it actually. I think that's enough. I'll just cause trouble. Kia ora.
Thanks, Greg. Paul, if you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'm with Grant. I think this is one of the cans we can't just keep kicking down the road. And yeah, I think year 2.
Cool. I think that's a pretty clear message that there's the majority support to not defer it to year 4, but put it into year 3. I'm probably a bit like Grant and Paul. Actually, I'd say keep it in year 2. Personally, I'd be happy with that, and Greg and others. But I think either way, we're not deferring it. Well, there's no support to defer it to year 4, but year 2 or 3 would be the one. That's the majority. Yep.
Except that's the majority, but I want to register that I don't
I know
should
that.
waste any of our ratepayers' money.
That was
on
clear.
it.
It's all public record. It's all videoed, mate. So, yep, Jess.
To add to for clarity as well, so the spatial plan is predicated on growth across the corridor as well. It's about integrated land use and transport. It's the other outcomes that we generate from having PT Futures investment, MRT, through the corridor. This study was looking at so the broader region, and inter-regional public transport, predominantly rail as a consideration. The Rolleston to Belfast corridor was considered through the MRT IBC process, and that's what this council considered back in March and said, no, let's go with the street running corridor, which is the Riccarton Road from Hornby through to Belfast, with the direct bus service connections out to the districts, out to Rolleston and Lincoln, and out to Rangiora and Kaiapoi. So just bear that in mind. We weren't intending through this work to relitigate the Rolleston to Belfast corridor. This is about the connections beyond that into the region, to the Amberleys, to the Ashburtons, to Timaru, and potentially beyond as well. So I just wanted to make that point so that you're all clear in your minds.
Yeah, Joe?
Could we please have the decision that we made in the long-term plan deliberations about this circulated to councillors? And I just wonder if, Jesse, you could speak to what you said around the expenditure not having any conditions attached to it. One moment. So in an email written to me on the 30th of August, you wrote, "There are no specific conditions on this expenditure as such, but it was linked to discussions we had on rail with RTC previously."
Yeah, so this was the advice that our staff provided to the RTC about that work, and that's what I just reflected then. So this is to build off the IBC work that was done on MRT. There's no conditions on specifically, but the reports, which I'm happy to circulate to councillors, that went to RTC, and the WSP work that supported the initial conversations about why we should do a market demand and rail utilisation study, and the process that you would follow to do that. And also, from our perspective, hence why we were looking to defer to year 4, was to actually get the support from NZTA to help fund the work, if that was seen as an appropriate priority from the government. So no conditions as such that it has to be, doesn't specifically say you can't consider Rolleston to Rangiora, but the IBC MRT work that NZTA did with WSP, the same consultants, showed that this wasn't the preferred option. It was the street running corridor, for a variety of other reasons that actually underpin the spatial plan outcomes that we're looking to achieve.
Okay.
Well, I was under the impression that we had made no conclusions about the link between Hornby and Rolleston, or between Belfast and Rangiora, and that those discussions still had to be held about whether it was an on-road kind of policy, or whether rail was actually a potential way of doing that. Just kind of
happy to bring out the previous decisions from both the GCP and our own council, and also the councils from the district councils around the decisions that were made on the spatial plan and MRT work.
I'll give you one more say, Joe, but I think we're not going to solve this today. But
I just think like we're using terms like mode agnostic and intra and inter. So maybe we need to drill down because we're the council that's put this on budget.
It would be really good to know what that 525k in year 2 was intended for. That would be good to get clarity on. And if there's any scope to be able to relook at that, would also be good. So maybe that's something you need to come back with us as we progress the annual plan discussions, because there is still some appetite from councillors for it to be in year 2 as well. So thank you.